Good morning, all of you. I am very glad to meet you all in my presentation. First of all, I use this opportunity to thank Dr. Rohan Savarimuthu, Senior Lecturer of English and Head of the Department of Information Technology at Trincomalee Campus, for giving me this wonderful opportunity today. So without any delay, let's quickly get into this presentation. Today, our topic is The Philosophy of Composition by Edgar Allan Poe. So in next slide, we can say before we are directly deal with this essay, we have to know about some important matters. Those are Life of Edgar Allan Poe and the Poem of the Raven. Without knowing these two things, you can't clearly understand this essay, the essay of the philosophy of composition. So you can see the clear connection between these three things, Life of Edgar Allan Poe and the Poem of the Raven. So we can clearly tell as a result of this poem, the essay of the philosophy of composition created. So let's talk about the life of Edgar Allan Poe. Yes. In this slide, you can see, generally, we know that Edgar Allan Poe is one of the most famous poets in America. And he is also an author and writer, literary critic, and he is an editor. Also, he wrote so many poems, essays, and short stories. And also, we know he is a central figure of romanticism and Gothic fiction. These everything are basic things. We know these things, but what I wanted to express you here today is beyond some things about Edgar Allan Poe, because those things are related to this poem and the essay. So we know that Edgar Allan Poe was born in 1809 for the parents of actors, and his parents died in 1811 when he was 2.5 years. Just imagine, Edgar Allan Poe was a baby. He needed a parental love in that time, but his parents died. And also after Poe was raised in the home of John Allan, his but they didn't adopted Edgar Allan Poe as a adopted child legally, but they provided everything, such as good education and good food, so on. But unfortunately, Edgar Allan Poe lost his foster mother too. His foster mother died in 1829. So imagine about the post life. It was very difficult, no, because he didn't get the own mother's parental love, and his foster mother's parents' love too. So after still when his mother died, he didn't have any stability. He didn't have any strong financial support. So after some several years, he married his own cousin sister Virginia in 1836. When he married her, she was only 13 years and he was 27 years old. So Poe loved Virginia very much. Usually Poe called her as my little dear wife and my dear Virginia, my dear wife, so on. So through these words, you can understand that how Poe loved Virginia very much. So, and unfortunately, another incident happened that Virginia became ill with tuberculosis in 1842. So, Edgar Allan Poe was suffered a lot by this illness of Virginia. So, when he was writing the poem, the Raven, that time his wife was suffering from tuberculosis. So he could dive into the imagination of that, what will happen if I lose my wife because of this terrible disease. So that's why he could get the real taste to his poem. And after 2 years, his wife died in 1847 by this disease. And after the death of his wife, Poe lost his fully consciousness, and he died in 1849. When he died, he was discovered with a semi-consciousness. So why I explain these things? Because these things are related with this poem, The Raven. We know that Edgar Allan Poe lost the women who loved most, such as his own mother and foster mother. Also, he lost his brother too, and finally he lost his wife. So Edgar Allan Poe, the real pain of the losses of women, and these are the things which are reflected in his poem, especially in Raven. So we can understand through this incident that Poe led a very darkness of life. Poe had a very sadness in his life. So with this, let's come into the main thing, that the Raven poem, one of the greatest poem. Yes, The Raven. It was written in 1845. The main theme of The Raven is there is an unnamed author who is lamenting because of thinking about of his wife's death. So this is the content. But the main matter of the poem is The Raven. The poem created a sensation within a short time period. That is the ultimate thing, and an instant fame to its author, Edgar Allan Poe. So in that time period, in 1845 and in 1846, so The Raven was the main debated topic. So every literary critic discussed about the behind the scenes of The Raven. Some are suggested that Allan Poe could firstly chose the parrot, after only he chose this raven likewise. And some critics falsified the raven. So can you imagine now how a single poem can brought such a instant fame to its author, and also how it possible, how it can create such a sensation within short time period, years. Or even though the poem reached, because of the poet's hard working and creativity, Poe's experiences in his life gave the real taste to that poem. That's why I explained the life of Edgar Allan Poe earlier, because now you can get that clear idea when that real taste from when it came. So from the through the life experiences of the Poe, because Poe already knew the pain of his loss, how it could be that if we lose our own mother, foster mother, or how it will be if we lose our own lovable wife, likewise. So Poe connected those real feelings into this poem. So in next slide, we can say that's why this poem is considered as an autobiographical poem. So next slide. So we know autobiographical means a poet who is delivering about his own life. So, and also this poem is known as a Gothic poem. A Gothic poem which has the themes of death, supernatural, and also sorrow, grief, so on. So beyond the content of this poem, the poem has 108 lines, and also the melancholy tone, and also the province of beauty. So you can see these things in a detailed minute throughout the essay, The Philosophy of Composition. I'll explain you later. So before get into those things, you have to know the summary of the poem. So I'll give you a summary, short summary. So this poem starts with a midnight in a bleak December. So with the unnamed author who is thinking in his chamber about his death of his wife. He couldn't come from that sadness. That time he hears a sound, a tapping sound, and at first time he looks out. There is no one, only the echo sound of Leno. Leno is his wife's name. Then again he hears that that tapping sound. So and he again goes out and says he finds that there is a raven which is staying on a bust of palace. So then he expecting a good news, because already he is in the pain. So he is expecting a good news from that raven and asking some questions repeatedly. But he gets the reply, he gets the answer from that raven is nevermore. So that reply makes the lover or the unnamed author very sad, very furious. And then finally this poem ends like this, that the raven never go from that bust of pellets, and the raven never stop that word nevermore. So the author also feels that the pain which is inside his heart because of the death of his wife, it will never go, like how the raven stays on that bust of pellets, and how the raven repeated the word of the nevermore. So this is the short summary of the raven. So I can now sure that you can understand with these two things the philosophy of composition essay clearly. So let's focus on the next slide. Yeah, here there are so many poems were written by poets, but those poems reached peak of the fame, we know that. But no any poets shared their secrets about their composition piece of artworks, and no poets exposed how they composed their poems, and what are the tricks and techniques they used to compose their poems or any other artworks. They never revealed, but uh, it is stated by Edgar Allan Poe in his essay, The Philosophy of Composition. You can see that statement in this slide. So, but the Edgar Allan Poe, he himself decided to reveal the things, reveal the behind the scenes of the poem, The Raven, because I already mentioned that the raven in that time period, raven was the main debated topic among the literary critics. So that's why Allan Poe wrote such an essay, that the philosophy of composition, to reveal the things, what are the steps he gone through to make this finalize this composition, which is the raven. So let's move to the next slide. So if you read the essay, The Philosophy of Composition, that you can understand the whole essay talks about the progressive steps of his marvelous composition, that the Raven. How did he what are the things he focused, and what are the tricks and techniques he used to finish this artwork. So he reveals everything about this hugely successful poem. So then he describes the deliberate choices he made to compose the poem, The Raven. So let's talk about this one by one in a detailed manner. So in next slide, that if you read the philosophy of composition, you can get a ideas of summary like this, because the main focus was on Poe's main focus was on in the unity of effect. Under the unity of effect only, he rearranged, he ordered everything one by one. He believed that incident and tone can be shaped the unity of effect. Through this only other things are added, and we can understand that to compose a composition, there are three things needed. One is extent, another one is province, last one is tone. And also there are some aspects needed to maintain the unity of effect: refrain, pretext, choice of the word, quarries, versification, local, and richness and ideal. So let's talk about this in a detailed manner one by one. So first of all, unity of effect. So unity of effect, it can be known as a totality of impression. So Poe's main focus was on this unity of effect. He in every time, whenever he make any step, steps to make this poem. He carefully considered about this unity of effort without lacking the unity of effort, because we know every compositionist need composition is the primary need is to reach the audience heart, reader's heart. The effect should be made inside of the reader's heart, among the society, or between the literary critics. Then only the poem or the essay or the short story will be successful. So Poe also had that main intention. That's why Poe arranged everything according to the unity of effect. So he believed that tone and incident, these two things can be wrought, it means shaped the unity of effect very beautifully. So he explains that in his essay, that the incident can be ordinary, or the tone can be peculiar, or the incident can be peculiar, tone can be ordinary, or both can be, tone and incident can be peculiar. Likewise, he explains about the unity of effect. Then only after, under this unity of effect only, he ordered everything, he gathered every information to his poem one by one. So the first thing is extent. So in next slide. Yes, extent. So extent means it's a length. So what he decided for the first to create his poem, only extent. He didn't think at the beginning of his stage of the poem. He didn't think about the conclusion, or or the content, or the characters. Nothing else. He only, his main focus is unity of effect. Then he cared about this extent. Extent means length. That Poe tells that the poem should be read within one sitting. If the poem needs one, two sittings or more, then the unity of effect will be destroyed, because the unity of effect is maintained by the length of the poem. So you can imagine, no, if we read fully, if the poem is very long, we will get bored, no. So it's a fact. So that's why he shows an example by pointing the poem Paradise Lost by John Milton is essentially prose, because the poem has a limitation of length, but Paradise Lost crossed the limitation. It's more than thousands of lines. And also, a poem must include a particular limit. Otherwise, if the limit is crossed, then the old unity of effect, or the totality of impression will be deprived. So he shows another example by Robinson Crusoe. So it also demanding no unity, because there is an unlimited lines. So with these all considerations, Poe first of all limited the length for his poem as 100 lines, but actually at last it became 108 lines. So this is the first decision what Poe made. And the second one, province. Yes, the second consideration was on province, to Poe, because he finalized the length, no, 100 lines. Then he need a very suitable province, because his another focus is the unity of impression, or this effect of impression should be spread all over the world. And his another intention was this: his work, end of the work, his work should be universally appreciated. So he found a very suitable province to his poem. Finally, he identified that is a beauty. So his statement is in his poem: beauty is the sole legitimate province of the poem. So he tells about the beauty. He tells that beauty is not a quality, it is not an intellectual thing. Actually, a beauty is a elevation of soul. So, and a pleasure can be found in the contemplation of this beautiful.
Okay, now start.
Okay. Then, then Poe tells that a pleasure can be found in the contemplation of the beautiful. Uh, so, so, mm, oh, so finally, Poe finalized the province as beauty to his poem. So first of all, Poe finalized the length, 100 lines. Then he decided to take a province as beauty. So then the third thing, the tone. So in next slide, you can see tone. So tone. The next consideration of Poe is the tone. So he thought that tone will be the highest manifestation of the province, because Poe tells in his essay that a true artist will focus on the tone and the beauty. So he thought that through his own experiences, which tone will be the most suitable tone for his poem. So that's why in every stage, his life is connected with this poem and the essay. Then we know that Poe has the connection, Poe has the close relationship with sadness. So for the first time, he got the tone as sadness. Then he finalized melancholy is thus the most legitimate of all the poetical tones. Then after finalized the melancholy tone, he thought that which will be the most extremely melancholy. That in that matter also Poe had that experience. Death is the most melancholy according to his experiences, because he experienced his own mother's death, own foster mother's death, own brother's death. So he know how the pain would be because of death. So he finalized death. Although he decided the extreme death is the extreme melancholy is death, he need to decide whose death. So there are so many death, no, mother's death, father's death, and so whose death will be the most extremely melancholy. Then he connected the beauty of province with this tone. Then he decided to take the death then of a beautiful woman is unquestionably the most poetical poet, political topic in the world. So he decided, he finalized three things. So length, then extent, then tone. These are the three main things for a composition. But Poe needed more effective. Poe needed to maintain the unity of effect in more ways. So he gathered so many things. Let's talk about them one by one. So the next slide shows the first aspect, which is refrain. Yes, refrain. So Poe thought about every artistic effects which are universally employed. Then he found that this refrain is a universally employed effect as. So because what is refrain? We can say a phrase or line repeated at intervals within a poem, especially at the end of stanza, which is a refrain. So Poe thought to connect this refrain with the length and with the melancholy tone and with beauty. So every time Poe was carefully considered about without lacking this unity of effect in any situation. So refrain, he thought the refrain should be in a subcategories, which should be because refrain should be in a word. Um, it will more suitable to his poem, and it should be in a sonorous sound. So and also it should be in a it should be give the it should give the negative reply, or it should give the sadness of tone. So likewise he thought, and finally he finalized which is the word Nevermore. Nevermore is the word because it has the sonorous sound, long O, and also the producible consonant sound R. And the nevermore word gives the very furious feeling or the sadness. The nevermore is nothing more. So nothing will happen more. Likewise, so the word is very suitable to the melancholy tone too. So in next slide, we can say that what did Poe say in his poem? Yeah, and these considerations inevitably led me to the long O as the most sonorous vowel in connection with R as the most producible consonant. So eventually he found the word nevermore is the very suitable word matching with melancholy tone for his poem. So now remind these orders. First one, 100 lines of left. Second one, the beauty of province. Third one, and the melancholy tone. The fourth one, what he decided is a never more refrained word. So next we can see what he finalized is pretext. Yeah, now and also he finalized this melancholy tone with this nevermore at the end of the stanza. Each and every end of the stanza there will be nevermore by delivering someone. So he needed a pretext to this nevermore word. So he thought he needs a question or he need advice or something it can be. But his next desideratum was a preset, which is a continuous use of the word of nevermore. So he only decided the pretext according to the repetition of the nevermore. So he thought again and again, thought, and he finally identified that the pretext should be delivered by a human being. It will be more suitable. Then the nevermore, it is a negative form of a word, no? So it gives the melancholy, no? So then the nevermore should be delivered by a non-reasoning creature, which can be a bird. Likewise, he decided. So his next focus was on, in next slide, choice of the bird. So he can get any person to this poem as a human being, humankind, to deliver the pretext. But his the main task is how can I choose a suitable bird. So then his main conditions are the bird should be a non-reasoning creature, and also it should have the that speaking ability. So first of all, what he got into his mind is the bird parrot, but it is not suitable for the tone of melancholy. Parrot is a very happiest bird, no? So then he chose the raven as the bird for this refrain, for this repeating word nevermore, because we know raven is an ill omen. People consider it as an ominous bird, and also people have some superstition about this bird. So can you see the beauty of this ordinance, how poor thought and finally get a very more suitable bird for this. So the raven was finalized by Poe to this poem. So now he has the bird too. So and next his consideration was chorus. Now just imagine with me also, you also imagine that now Poe has a person who is lamenting because of the death of his wife, and also he has the raven. So these two things Poe have. Perhaps, but how had to combine these two ideas: lover, lamenting deceased wife, mistress, and also the bird, the raven, which is repeating the word continuously, nevermore. So he thought again and again which will be more suitable to combine these two things. Then he finally understood that queries, which are questions, are the most suitable ones. Then he designed that poems by asking questions from the raven. So in that time also, Poe's main focused on without lacking this unity of effect. He maintained all this length, because he already decided no those things. So length, beauty of the province, and also the melancholy tone. So without lacking these things, he made these quarries between lover and the raven. So at a point, this poor mad this thing is, because the raven always repeating the same word, no, nevermore, nevermore. So it gives a furious feeling, or the sadness and also melancholy to lover. So in a point, lover is the unnamed author is startled because of the raven's reply. So this poem is ending with also the repetition word nevermore. So it gives such a melancholy, it gives such a sadness, furious feeling to the readers too. So let's see the next consideration of awe. So until this, just order these things, the length of 100 lines, and with beauty of province, and also the melancholy tone, and nevermore refrain, the bird raven, and also the incident with the lover who is lamenting deceased mistress. So these everything, and with combined with quarries. With these, the poet who wrote the first stanza. It is this stanza. You can see this stanza um, in the screen, that which is the stanza Poe wrote for the first, but actually this stanza is 16th stanza when it complete the poems. It's the lines from 91 to 96. Okay, so this is that first stanza Poe wrote. So in next slide. When he was writing that first stanza, he focused the climax with all seriousness, with all the quarries of the lover, likewise. Then only, after only, he added the rhythm, meter, length, every beautiful things to that stanza. So our next consideration, versification. So versification, we know versification means we are creating verses. So the versification deals with the length, rhythm, meter, and stanza. All are connected with the versification. So as usual, Poe also saw a originality in this versification, but it is not possible when it's come to versification, because the unusualness. So without being originality is also the originality in this versification. That's why he tells, and yet for centuries, no man in West has ever done or ever seemed to think of doing an original thing. So, because if we note this stanza in the poem Raven, we can understand that there is no order in feet. So the first line, if you take a stanza which consists of 6 lines, the first line will be consists of 8 line feet, and the second will be 7.5, and again third will be 8, again fourth and 5 will be 7.5 feet, and finally the sixth line will be 3.5. So there is no any order. The stanzas are versified by unusual manner. So this is all about versification. And also the next consideration was locale. So, do you know what is local? Local means it is a place, a particular place where a particular incident can happen. So, now Poe has the lover who is lamenting the deceased wife, and the raven, which is continuously repeating the word nevermore. So the main need was Poe's main need was a place where he can place the lover and where he can place the raven. So he thought about everything of this lover situation, his feelings, what he is doing like this. He placed the lover in his chamber, because chamber is, we know, it's a very silent place. It can make us sometimes very silent. Because of the silence, because of the loneliness, we can get a very sadful thing inside of this chamber. And then he placed the raven in a bust of palace, which is situated in front of his chamber room. So here bust means it's a sculpture with head and shoulders. Also palace means it's a Greek goddess of wisdom. So the raven was placed in the bust of palace. So this everything was designed according to the melancholy tone, and according to the refrain, or according to everything. So every situation, every time, what Poe maintained is without the lacking of the unity of effect. His main focus in every aspect, the totality of impression should be maintained. So he finalized the local two for his marvelous poem, The Raven. And finally, his consideration is richness and ideal. So also he talks about the richness and ideal. Here, richness means, look at the statement of Poe. Two things are invariably required for his poem. First, some amount of complexity, or more properly adaptation, which is called as richness. We can say richness is borrowing from colloquy a possible term. It is needed to a poem. And secondly, some amount of suggestiveness, some undercurrent, however, indefinite of meaning, which is called as ideal. Ideal is the excessive of the suggested meaning. So by following these two, Poe created a verse. So that is this word: take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy from off my door, quoth the raven, nevermore. So these verses can include this richness and ideas. So now we are in the stage of the end of the stage of my presentation. So so far I explained what are the steps that Poe made to compose his poem, how Poe made this poem The Raven step by step. Those are the things explained by poem in his one of the greatest essay, The Philosophy of Composition. So now I would like to wind up my presentation with a very happy heart, with reciting this poem. So, and the raven, never fleeting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. So thank you so much for everyone.